Parents of picky eaters know looking for creative ways to incorporate healthier nutrients into their children's meals can be a real chore, especially when it comes to packing school lunches. So today we brought in a registered dietitian, Melina Mulcaney, and she's going to share ways that parents can combat some of those picky eating habits. Hello, Melina.
Hello, hello. Yes, Aubrey, thank you for having me. It's so nice to be here.
Yeah,
And
so
it is hard
it is so
when we get
hard.
to,
I sometimes get stressed because I'm like, what am I going to put in their lunches today? Not that mine are picky eaters, but they're just creatures of habit. So they always want the same things, and sometimes it's not the best things.
yes, and summer is a little bit more of a free-for-all, and we kind of let meals be what they're going to be. So then as we start to move towards those back to school routines and we get into a more regular habit of meals and snacks, the stress can kind of creep in because we think, oh, is my child going to eat at daycare? Are they going to eat at school if we don't have someone sort of hovering over them and saying, take two more bites of X, Y, or Z? But the funny thing is about picky eating, the more that we stress about it and the more that we bring stress to food and feeding, the more those picky eating behaviors can kind of stick around longer and stronger. So my goal is to always help reduce as much of that stress as I possibly can.
So how do you suggest parents navigate those lunches for those picky eaters, and make sure that they can maybe change that behavior?
Well, I always like to recommend first zooming back and just remembering as parents that feeding kids is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And instead of focusing on the bite to bite and the nutrient to nutrient from meal to meal, if we sort of zoom back and try to put a more healthy family feeding dynamic in place, that can do two things. It can help reduce picky eating, but it can also make those meal times, whether they're at lunch, at school, or at daycare, or at home, more pleasant and more of a time to connect.
All right.
And so I really like to, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I would say all right, and I know you have some examples in front of you.
I do, but I'd love to start with 5 tips that sort of help put that family feeding dynamic into place, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Um, I really love to focus on a division of responsibility between parents and kids, as described by Ellen Satter. And when we do this, it just makes everybody's job so clear. The parent's job is to decide the what, when, and where of meals, whether that's packed lunches or breakfast or dinner. And it's the child's job to decide whether and how much to eat. And it's easier to say than to implement, but it really does take that stress off. But the next kind of question that always comes up, the natural question, is what do I do if my child doesn't eat the food? And so that's tip number 2, which is to really just take the pressure off. And instead of engaging in those food battles and those discussions of when the packed lunch comes back home, why didn't you eat this, instead just really focusing on that division of responsibility and a no pressure response, which is a much more long-term solution. And it can kind of sound something like this: that's okay if you didn't eat it, or it's okay, you don't have to eat it. Learning to like new foods can take some time, and that's okay.
Melina, we only have about 20 seconds left. Anything else you want to share with our audience?
Okay. Yeah, I'd love to share. I'm going to share one more tip with you, and it's that repeated exposure. Studies show it can take an average of 15 exposures before a child will accept a new food. So this process can take some time. And what can really reduce everybody's stress during that time is to have a complete nutrition option available that's convenient, versatile, and
All
I
right,
love, and I'm
Melina
so proud to
Mulcaney,
partner.
thanks so much for coming on the show. Great tips.